Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, the military-grade ground-air task-oriented radar at the A&R Robinson International Airport in Crown Point is no longer there. According to mainstream media sources, the U.S.-supplied radar has been dismantled and will be leaving Tobago soon. Of course, the Kakash media is celebrating this because, we are getting back our so-called sovereignty. A U.S. military aircraft is expected to arrive on the island to transport the U.S. $3 million per day equipment. I have to mention that to him. Bear in mind, America was covering the cost for that, not Trinidad. But mainstream media, the Kakash media, always trying to plant seeds of negative thoughts in the minds of the population. So, we wasting money, Jed, when it was not our money being spent in the first place. Guardian media, this mainstream media, Kakash media, visited a vantage point yesterday morning where the towering radar could have previously been seen, rotating 360 degrees, but the equipment was absent. In other words, mainstream media was continuing to go macroing over and over again to see if it's there, if it's not there, because they probably heard the rumor that it was going to be taken down. So they decided, you know what? On behalf of our citizens, Jed, we're going to see if it really gone or not. I'm sure they felt all tingly and happy all inside because of the colonialists. Radar is now gone, so we have nothing to detect anything in our territory here in Trinidad and Tobago. On Wednesday, Chief Secretary Farley Augustine said the U.S. troops will be leaving Tobago in a couple days, and it appears that the radar will be leaving with them. Now, maybe just maybe, the reason why the Americans decided to remove the radar now is because, remember, diplomatic relations with Venezuela is being normalized. There's now the embassy in Venezuela has been reopened. So, of course, there's no actual significant security threat when it pertains to Venezuela. And, of course, for different reasons, maybe they need it to put in some other location at this point in time, right? Now, of course, the narrative was being pushed from the beginning that it was also going to be useful for drug trafficking and so forth, and therefore the government cannot use that excuse anymore. But we all knew from the very beginning that it was mainly for our security to protect us and to detect any sort of incoming attack from Venezuela while Maduro was still president. It may have most likely probably benefited to an extent when it pertains to drug trafficking as well. But it was mostly to be able to detect anything coming in from the sky, right? So we're putting that aside. I'm not saying everything that was stated by the government was 100% correct, but it definitely was benefiting us. I personally wish that it had remained though, because we cannot trust the regime that is in Venezuela at this point in time still. Because this woman who took over for Delcy Rodriguez, who took over for Maduro, as much as she's normalizing relations with America, we cannot trust her. Only when elections are called and there's free and fair elections where the Americans can actually observe to ensure that it's conducted in a democratic and a free way, only then we could feel a little more comfortable being neighbors with Venezuela right now. The Venezuelan people are lovely people, just like the Iranian people are lovely people. We are speaking about the evil regimes that are in control of these nations at this point in time. Hopefully, the Ayatollah will be totally removed from power. If not, at least they no longer have the ability to be able to carry out significant attacks, dangerous, deadly attacks against neighboring countries, including Israel. And definitely now they would not be able to build certain types of weapons that they can use to attack America either. These people, for decades now, have been chanting death to Israel and death to America, and yet people say that these are wonderful leaders in Iran, the Ayatollah regime. I'm telling you, the Bible said it clearly, and I will continue to tell people who watch my videos. The Bible says that in the last days, evil will be considered good and good will be considered evil. And this is why nowadays, radical jihadists like the Ayatollah, communists like Castro and Mugabe and these kind of people, dictators like these individuals like Maduro, are considered to be great men because they oppose the Western civilization. Great men that persecute their own people. But just because they oppose the Western civilization, they are glorified for that. That is what you call evil being considered good. In some good news, Minister of Health Dr. Lackram Bodoe has announced that the central block of the Port of Spain General Hospital is set to reopen on June 30th, 2026. Now, I think when the Kamala Prasad administration came into office, they did promise a much earlier date. But remember, contrary to what the PNM said, that area was not ready to be opened and used by the public. There were videos showing that there was need for a whole lot more work to be done on that central block. At a UNC media briefing on Sunday, Dr. Bodoe said the revised timeline follows several challenges identified during ongoing construction at the facility managed by UDeCOTT. The hospital's central block project was first approved in 2017 under the previous PNM administration. Dr. Bodoe said in March 2025, just ahead of the general election, the public was told the project had reached practical completion, which it was not. But you know, PNM, this, he said, did not reflect the reality of the facility at the time. And as I said before, they didn't just say that. They took the media in and showed them, listen, does this look like an area that can be utilized by the public or even the doctors and the nurses, the staff of the hospital? No, it was still under construction. But the PNM wanted to give her the impression as though they completed something just in time for the elections to motivate their base to vote for them, the same base that gladly made ultimate sacrifices for them for 9.5 years. Those same patriots who made all the ultimate sacrifices are demanding everything from the United National Congress, the Kamala Prasad Bissessa administration now, you know. But you see, that's the difference. Once PNM is in power, patriots are willing to make any sacrifice whatsoever, wean off the government. When UNC is in office, they want everything from the government.
So the new UDeCOTT board under Minister of Works and Transport, Gillian John, continues to work on that facility. Many challenges have been experienced. Of course, I think these would have been explained to the media through newspaper articles and so on, and therefore the new opening date has been shifted to June 30th, 2026. The Ministry of Health continues to work with UDeCOTT closely to try and ensure that we overcome those challenges that were outlined.
The hospital's central block project was first approved in 2017 under the previous administration. Dr. Bodoe said in March 2025, just ahead of the general election, the public was told the project had reached practical completion. This, he said, did not reflect the reality of the facility at the time.
Lo and behold, on March 10, you will recall, March 10, 2025, on the throes of a general election, we were told about a practical completion of the central block. Of course, the population got excited, but what it turned out to be really was that this was just an election show. Just one floor was used for, for the viewing public and so on.
Dr. Bodoe gave the assurance that the government remains committed to improving the healthcare services offered to citizens.
Vandana Mohit, Minister of the People, has called for the immediate resignation of the board of the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, citing serious financial problems caused by alleged long-term mismanagement and poor oversight. Everything that was under PNM control was mismanaged, including Petrotrin. And that's why they end up shutting it down, because of PNM mismanagement. According to Mohit, a ministry audit found the authority has liabilities of about $77 million dating back to 2020. The debt reportedly includes millions owed to security firms, employee gratuities, staff health insurance, and statutory payments to the Board of Inland Revenue and the National Insurance Board of Trinidad and Tobago. What PNM was doing with the $60 billion budgets that they were allocating? What was this Children's Authority doing with the monies allocated to them? She also criticized what she described as irresponsible spending, including the reported purchase of an ice maker for more than $300,000. while some children's centers allegedly lacked guaranteed access to food. You can understand that? Food, lack of food, but you're buying a $300,000 ice maker. Just like how certain individuals in the PNM paid millions of dollars to clean, I think, a stadium, and millions of dollars for paintings and all sorts of stuff like that. The board led by Chairman Marsha Bailey and appointed in September 2024. So the PNM Patriots said, oh, it was the UNC that appointed this board. No, 2024. UNC was in office back then, my dear Patriots. Under the People's National Movement Administration said it was surprised by the minister's call and maintained that it has been working to fulfill its responsibilities. Yeah, right. Mohit said the audit is still ongoing and the decision about possible police involvement, I hope police will get involved, will be made at the final report. Thing about it is, this is the only thing another thing that I've been quite disappointed with the UNC with thus far. Nearly a year now. Just will be the 1 year anniversary, April, next month, God's willing. And no criminal investigations have been launched into any of the corruption allegations made against. And there's evidence, there's so-called evidence. And yet not one criminal investigation into the actions taken by the former regime. This is the only thing that I keep being disappointed about. One of the things, besides the taxes and the fees and the fines. This is one of the other things that I keep feeling disappointed about. You have so much evidence. Why aren't you actually launching or demanding that investigations be launched into these serious criminal offenses that would that took place under the People's National Movement? Don't go anywhere. Regional news up next. Minister of Agriculture Israel Brusin in St. Vincent and the Grenadines has stressed the importance of a national self-reliance, particularly in food production. Small island, but yes, you still need to be sustain yourself as a nation. While addressing the closing and prize-giving ceremony for the home and school gardening program last Thursday. Speaking at the event, Minister Bruce said it is critical for the nation to strengthen its capacity to produce its own food and reduce dependence on external sources. He's 100% correct. Remember, their population is small anyhow, so even though it's a small island, they can still probably cultivate a certain amount of food products to be able to sustain their population. Minister Bruce noted that the country must be able to rely on its own resources in order to withstand challenges affecting global food systems. And we're supposed to be focusing a whole lot more on that here in Trinidad as well. He pointed out that disruptions in international supply chains in recent years have highlighted the need for countries to improve domestic food production and resilience. But what he needs to do, though, you have to make it affordable for the farmers to be able to cultivate these different crops and for livestock farming. Because, yes, it may be very expensive to import food at times because of the global food crisis and shortage or whatsoever. But if it's going to cost the farmers a whole lot of money, then the cost at the markets and in the supermarkets and so forth, in the groceries, will be still expensive. And at a lot of the times, what you end up noticing is that the imported food items still end up being cheaper than what we're getting in the local, that is produced locally. That is what needs to change. And that is what Guyana is addressing at this point in time. And that is what St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and even here in Trinidad and Tobago, we need to address. We need to make it much more affordable for the farmers to be able to cultivate these crops and to rear animals, livestock.
So that you hear about food security, the challenges that some of these countries are providing or in the practice of producing important food for our consumption. The fact that there is fighting happening, it means that the production can't happen, or that it will take longer for the food to get to us. And the longer it takes, it means that the cost of transportation will be increased, and therefore the cost of the food in the supermarket will be far more expensive for your parents. That we should involve our preschoolers at their own level. And therefore I challenge the head of rural transformation with the support of the extension services, that where there are preschools that are doing any gardening, let's have our preschoolers involved at this level in the same way. Because we have said as a government that agriculture will be one of those 4 pillars of economic development for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And if we are to make good of that commitment, it has to be essentially from the cradle to the grave that agriculture must play a part in our own development.
Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Dr. Irfan Ali, has called for a strategic overhaul of the Guyana prison service, urging the body to move from a reactive role to a proactive pillar of national security. Addressing the Guyana Prison Service Annual Senior Officers Conference being held at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, Lillian Dahl, the president said the country's approach to the security must be unified and collaborative. He stressed the need for the prison service to play a constructive societal role, proposing the development of a prison avoidance system focused on preventing people, particularly, and that's what I love what he said, particularly young people, because that's a generation that's being led astray. The older heads have already been basically lost, grounded in gang culture, but now the youths are being led astray as well, and that's why we need to take an initiative and come out and say, you know what? No, we're going to start programs throughout the entire country here in Trinidad and Tobago and in Guyana to try to instill proper, sound types of positive concepts and ideologies in the minds of our youths, get them out of the gang culture sort of mentality. But let me read over that part. So, particularly young people from entering the criminal justice system in the first place. The elders, Rash Shorty said it. It was the older generations that led the youth astray, people. This didn't just happen overnight, The young people did not just go astray just so, They grew up in homes where gang culture was pushed. They grew up in homes where parents are using drugs and smoking weed whole day and whole night, drinking alcohol. Now, drinking alcohol in moderation is okay, but they're drinking alcohol and smoking weed and playing gang-cultured music which glorifies violence. And then you expect the youths to be what? Becoming doctors and nurses and police officers and whatsoever, when all they're hearing in their minds from since they're young that the best thing in life is to be a zessa and a baddest. You really expect them to follow the right path when that is what you're instilling into their minds and their hearts from very young? It's the parents, it's the communities to be blamed for what is taking place here in Trinidad and Tobago and throughout the entire Caribbean. Gas-powered motor vehicles in Jamaica will soon be required to undergo mandatory tailpipes testing as part of the government's ongoing efforts to reduce pollution and protect the environment. So in other words, same thing like they're doing in Trinidad and Tobago, they want perfect cars on the roadway. So the poor man, once again, has to go back to what? Using a donkey cart to travel. But the poor man can't afford to go and fix the car, so we don't have any kind of smoke coming out of the vehicle. I understand where there's a whole set of excessive smoke, but where does they really want to go testing for? The initiative forms part of broader government efforts to implement environmentally friendly policies aimed at reducing harmful emissions and improving air quality. Yeah, but you looking as though that policy sounded as though it's only the rich man will be able to drive on the roadway in Jamaica now. Because when you talk about testing, if it is a car showing a whole set of smoke coming out of it, it's obvious something wrong with it. And that is different. You'll tell that person, listen, you need to get that fixed before you come back out on the roadway. But you're talking about, if you need a test, that means there's a small amount of extra exhaust coming out from that vehicle, carbon dioxide or whatever, carbon monoxide and stuff like that. That is what you want to go after people for? Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, Matthew Samuda, made an announcement during a recent National Schools Environment Club's student workshop hosted by the National Environment and Planning Agency at Titchfield High School in Port Antonio, Portland. He explained that tailpipe testing, expected to commence later this year, will measure the emissions produced by gasoline-powered vehicles to determine whether they align with the existing regulatory framework. Boy, I already said what I had to say, so I'm going to move on. Finance Minister Ryan Strawn says Barbadians can expect measures addressing concerns raised during the election campaign and amid shifting geopolitical conditions in the upcoming budget debate. I think it has already started. Speaking on arrival at the Parliament ahead of the delivering of the 2026 financial statement and budgetary proposals, Strawn said the government has adjusted its approach and is confident Barbadians will see that it has been flexible, responsible, and responding to the concerns that have been expressed. You had concerns, but you gave them all these seats in Parliament. You didn't even give them a position to debate with. Your concerns couldn't really be that significant. You seem as though you have a lot of confidence in Prime Minister Mia Mottley.
Well, Barbadians can expect some relief from the concerns that they have expressed, not just during the election, but certainly with the geopolitical issues that confront us. I think we've been able to reformulate, given that the short notice with respect to the changes in the geopolitical climate. So I am confident at the end of the speech, Barbadians will be comfortable that their government has been flexible, responsible, and are responding to their concerns that they've expressed.
It's the first time you are presenting officially as Minister of Finance. Tell me, what is that experience like for you?
Well, I feel really good because I've spent the last 8 years effectively doing the work on behalf of the people of Barbados and certainly on behalf of my constituents. So I'm really proud to be here this evening as the substantive Minister of Finance. And all I can say to Barbados is that once we continue to work together, display the kind of discipline and that we know that we can, then we will be able to help transform Barbados into the country that we know that it can be.
Amid cries from healthcare providers about delayed payments and concerns surrounding the National Health Assurance Authority, FNM Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands questions Prime Minister Philip Davis on his budget surplus and where the money is being directed there in the Bahamas. Elections is coming up in Bahamas as well, and it seems as though a lot of people and even the media are concerned about certain actions being taken by the present regime. Question is, will they give him another term in office, or will somebody else be voted in? Time alone will tell. I can't really give much commentary when it pertains to politics in Bahamas just yet, because I'm not really aware of what the opposition does, the opposition party does there, and the performance of this present regime. So let's see how things go, especially after the elections.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, if your government is running a surplus, if you have more money coming in than going out, how come the doctors who are taking care of NHI patients can't get paid? These doctors have been waiting for months, some of them seeing patients every single workday, and the government can't give them not even a half payment on time. They don't know when the money coming. Nobody could tell them anything. And some of them are just borrowing to keep the lights on or to pay their staff.
Officials in Cuba reported an island-wide blackout Monday in the country of some 11 million people as its energy and economy crisis deepened. Cuba has blamed its woes on a U.S. energy blockade after President Trump in January warned of tariffs on any country that sells or provides oil to it. My response? In a real world, Caribbean tribal patriots would be demanding that the Cuban communist regime exit office and allow their citizens to restore democracy in that country. But instead, far too many of our peoples who enjoy freedom in Jamaica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago prefer to sympathize with the tyrants who have oppressed their own people for decades. You couldn't believe that? And the thing about it is, these people, even here in Trinidad and Tobago, we live in a democracy, we enjoy democracy. We enjoy free speech. Even when the PNM in office, and we talking about creeping democracy, we still had freedom. Wasn't a lot of freedom, but we had freedom. People living in these other countries don't have the freedom that you have. And yet you always sympathizing with the dictators instead of the people. You more patriotic than the people in those countries. You could believe that? I am telling you, we are living in times when what? Evil is considered good and good is considered evil. And the main reason why evil is being considered good in the Caribbean region is because of tribalism. International news now. Greg Bovino, the U.S. Border Patrol commander who became the face of the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign before he was reassigned from his leadership role amid controversial immigration raids throughout the country, will now retire. Bovino was removed from his role as U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commander at Large in January amid the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens, Renee Good and Alex Pretty, in Minneapolis during immigration enforcement operations. I am glad that he was removed. And it shows that the Trump administration and Trump himself isn't extreme like a lot of the conservatives, especially in the QAnon movement, who didn't mind that basically extrajudicial killings took place. They didn't mind. They didn't mind because once it's a conservative government in office, and once it's probably people that are considered conservatives that commit the acts, it's okay. No, people, as Christians, we're supposed to be standing for justice, whether it is on our side or on the radical left side. More money. IRS data shows the average tax refund is up over 10% compared to last year. The average check is $3,676 heading into the middle of March, an increase of $352 from a year ago. Now that's a lot of money, and that's US dollars, eh? So we would love that kind of money in our hands here. Refunds are edging down slightly from a mid-February peak of $3,804, but experts say this is normal as the IRS finishes issuing credit, for families and low-income earners. Citizens are benefiting from the Trump administration policies. Prime Minister Kamala Pasabi says that you already admire Trump. Well, admire me enough to be able to reduce taxes here in Trinidad and Tobago, reduce duties here in Trinidad and Tobago as well, in order to stimulate our economy. Capital fallout. Top congressional Democrats are urging the Justice Department to pursue criminal charges against former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, alleging she made false statements to Congress during recent oversight hearings about DHS operations and a $220 million ad campaign. Making false statements to Congress is classified as a felony, and a guilty verdict carries up to 5 years in prison and a maximum fine of $250,000. Now, you know, once again, the QAnon sector or portion of the right or the conservative will be defending her. She was replaced for a reason, people, and therefore, surprisingly, and once in a while the Democrats are right. They're right. Now, of course, they will be just doing it just to be able to shine a bad light on the Trump administration. But the thing about it is, Trump administration removed her. So once again, hopefully, because Trump is making these wise decisions like standing with Israel and standing for justice, hopefully these good decisions that are being made will ensure the midterms in November will give back the Republicans a majority in both the House and the Senate. In a significant strike in Tehran, the IDF destroyed a compound belonging to the Iranian terror regime used to develop satellite attack capabilities in space. The Israeli Defense Air Force, acting on the precise IDF or Israeli Defense Force intelligence, dismantled a space-related compound belonging to the Iranian terror regime that was used to develop attack capabilities against satellites. They wanted to destroy the satellites being used most likely to even spy on whatsoever on them, posing a threat to Israel's satellites and to space assets of other countries around the world. Now, of course, that is not just about spying, yeah? These people just want to destroy anything that belongs to America and Israel. The compound was used to develop military space programs, including the development of the Chamran-1 satellite, which was built by the Iranian Ministry of Defense Electronics Industries and launched into space in 1P. The dismantling of the compound adds to the strike carried out last week, Friday, against another space-related research compound belonging to the Iranian Space Organization in Tehran. The government, the Ayatollah terrorist regime, is being dismantled by both America and the USA. And let's be clear about one thing before I move on. You know, the mainstream media is making fun of Trump and saying as though he's begging for help from Europe and Canada to join with him to protect the Strait of Hormuz. That is not what Trump is doing. America and Israel can handle that story on their own. It's all about principle for Trump. People cannot understand that up to now. Trump is saying you benefit from the Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, you should participate in securing it from the terrorist Ayatollah regime who is trying to take control of that area. That is all Trump is saying. If you want to benefit from it, why don't you participate in securing it? It's all about principle. He's not begging anyone to help America. America does not need the help of Great Britain or any of the other NATO allies.
To the brave people of Iran, I wish you, as I do every year, a happy holiday season beginning with the Festival of Lights. It signifies the age-old belief of the Iranian people that light will triumph over darkness, that good will triumph over evil. This year, this holiday has special meaning. Celebrate it with your friends, your family, your loved ones. I take this opportunity to wish you a happy Nowruz, a year of freedom, a new beginning of hope to all of you, my dear friends. Nowruz Piruz, Payande Iran.
Now for the interesting facts segment, Julian Brown has introduced a viral prototype designed to convert common plastic waste into liquid fuels like gasoline and diesel through a high-temperature thermal process. The invention has captured global attention by demonstrating how discarded materials can be transformed into combustible energy sources in real time, reducing pollution to a great extent, which is important. This technology, because you're talking about recycling, that's why I said that. This technology seeks to address the critical environmental crisis of plastic accumulation. See what I'm talking about? In landfills and oceans by repurposing waste into a valuable resource. By turning plastic into fuel, the project aims to create a circular solution for one of the most persistent pollutants on the planet. Yeah, you could be a conservative and still care about the planet, you know, my dear people. While the concept shows immense potential, it remains in the experimental phase and currently lacks independent certification regarding fuel quality and engine safety. Further testing and large-scale development are required to move this prototype from a viral sensation to a validated tool for global waste management. Hopefully, it ends up being successful.
Welcome to Real Conservative News Travel Adventures. Munich, the charming Bavarian capital, seamlessly blends historic grandeur with a vibrant, modern lifestyle. Located near the Alps, it offers stunning architecture, world-class museums, and traditional beer halls like the Hofbrauhaus. Key highlights include the bustling Marienplatz, scenic English Garden, and the lively Oktoberfest. Top attractions and experiences. Marienplatz and Old Town, Altstadt, the city's heart, featuring the new town hall with its famous Glockenspiel clock show. The Residence, explore the former palace of Bavarian monarchs, which features an opulent Renaissance hall, antiquarium.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.